We don't hit home runs on this podcast. We work station to station. We're back talking some World Series baseball. And I have Rob, Dustin, and Kreger. Starting with Dustin, maybe give me some thoughts on the playoffs so far.
Thoughts are it's been fairly entertaining. Some pretty interesting, late game shenanigans going on. And, if I was a fan of one of these teams, it'd be that much more exciting. So, I'm, as a baseball fan, it's been good, and I've been enjoying it to a certain degree, as much as I can.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of late inning comebacks and home runs makes it exciting. If you're a fan of Cleveland, the Mets, unfortunately they're not in it, but it was a fun playoff. The end result was at least what I predicted with Yankees and LA, but fun to see those teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just bored out of my mind with the idea of the Yankees and the Dodgers for the final. I mean, it's too bad that Cleveland ended up being the sort of, last one standing there. You look at their payroll, their payroll's down around 100 million, and they're trying to compete with the Yankees, at 300 million. So, it was just it just wasn't a fair matchup in that sense. You know what I mean? So, and you saw what happened, right? Eventually big money paid off and Soto got that big home run and the big money won. So now we got a final with the two of the richest clubs in baseball. Yeah. And like I said, that meme, Al, there's a meme where showing a map of the country, who's cheering for New York and who's cheering for LA in the whole country. And basically nobody cares except for in California and New York, and the rest of the country has no interest in either team. So yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't think it's great for baseball that we ended up with the Yankees and the Dodgers.
Well, you make a good point when it's when you look at the two payrolls, basically money talks.
This year.
Well, I think that's pretty much universal in most sports, right? Is you have big teams with lots of money, and they usually win, right? Or they're usually contending. Just before we move on to the World Series matchup, I have thought that the World Series, the playoffs, have been okay. I thought a lot of the games I watched had the potential of being really good. For example, a lot of I thought Cleveland, they did everything they could, right? They got runners on. They were trying to grind out runs. Managers making all kinds of moves, right? That he was grinding, man. That Cleveland manager was he was busy all game, and he was doing his best, but it was just he just couldn't at the end of it get when he had the bases loaded or and we all know about this as Jays fans, when he had runners on, they just couldn't get it over the edge. And so I thought a lot of the games up to game number four was that was where you had Judge and Stanton, take the lead, and then Cleveland comes back, ties it, and then of course walks it off. And I thought that was obviously incredible. I thought a lot of the games, I do think the series for the most part have been seemingly evenly matched. Excuse me. I think there was at one point where every single series in the divisional round was tied or something, which I thought at least we have some even matchups. But I don't know if the quality of the games has really been that great. And we can go into these teams a little bit, but I've enjoyed it for the most part. Obviously, Jay's not being there. Haven't enjoyed it to the fullest, but I'm actually hoping for some good baseball in this World Series.
One thing we did find out is that the long ball wins playoffs. Actually,
that's a very good point. I actually thought, and we kind of knew that already, but. It's been quite apparent how much just how much of a difference power makes, right?
Go figure, eh? The more home runs you hit, the better your chances are of winning a game. Huh. The the Jays should.
No, what do you know, eh, Rob?
Who would
Like,
have thought, right?
who'd have thunk it, right? Like, who would have thought? Who
Yeah.
would have thought that this would have been the case? Yeah, no, and I think that's actually a great point. That if there's been one theme of the playoffs, is that home runs pretty much decided most games. And as I touched on earlier, Cleveland was trying to do things to kind of play some small ball, and you get a little small ball with the Dodgers. They'll hit some home runs, but they will score runs in other ways. But the Yankees, the Mets, right? Like those two teams were essentially in those in those series because of the home runs they hit, and the Yankees are now going to the World Series because of the home runs they hit. All right, well, before we talk a little bit more about the World Series and what our thoughts are on it, and if it's good for baseball, let's do a little bit of the tail of the tape here. So Dustin kind of touched on, we did have the two Goliaths of the league. So in the red corner, we have the New York Yankees, 27 World Series titles, 41 pennants, 47 Hall of Famers. In the blue corner, the LA Dodgers, 7 World Series, 25 pennants, and 53 Hall of Famers. The Yankees were last in the World Series in 2009. It's been a while, and they won. The Dodgers were last in 2020, which they won. But really, with the, I guess, regular playoff format, they were last in the World Series in 2018. The New York Yankees and the LA Dodgers have not faced each other in the World Series since 1981, so it's definitely been a while since these two guys have faced off. That was won by the Dodgers. And Craig, you did touch on salaries, and I'll include that in my tail of the tape. The Yanks salary, $309 million, and the Dodgers, $241. So there's a bit of a difference there. The Mets actually were, I think the Mets are actually the highest. They're even higher than the Yankees by a handful of million. Who's counting right at that point? But these are our two Goliaths, and I did actually, while I was doing some research for this episode, I did want to note, because we always hear about the amount of World Series titles that the Yankees have, and so the reason they have so many is that from 1920 to 1964, so essentially 45 years, they played in 29 World Series and won 20 of them. And from 49 to 64, they won 14 times in 16 years. Ridiculous, right? Now, I'm sure there are some other arguments about, other teams, if they were, did they actually have the money and could they compete? But this is why the Yankees have this many World Series. Craiger, I want to punt this one over to you. And you had texted me, I guess, last week with your, you were a little, you weren't too happy that these two Goliaths were meeting in the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the same old story. Like, they haven't met each other in a while, but both teams are always contenders for the World Series. And it just, I mean, without the salary cap, right? And, I don't want to get into that too much because I kind of like without a salary cap, but you have all these have-nots that have a real difficult time getting to the World Series. So, it just gets a little boring that, I mean, if you look at the other top payrolls, like you're looking at Houston's number 3, the Phillies are number 4, Atlanta's number 6. These are all teams that are also, pretty high contenders for top of the league. And it's just really hard for the teams at the bottom. Like, I'm amazed that Cleveland got as far as they did, because they're literally 23rd out of 30 teams payroll wise. So, but Pittsburgh, Miami, Detroit, Cincinnati, they're all at the bottom. So I don't know. It just gets a little tiresome just seeing the big rich boys fight each other out.
Well, there's a lot to say here. I mean, I absolutely disagree with everything that Craig is saying. I think that the Dodgers and the Yankees fighting out in the World Series is probably the best possible outcome outside of the Blue Jays being there. As a Blue Jays fan, I think that yes, money buys competitiveness. Money doesn't buy World Series appearances, and definitely doesn't buy a World Series win. I mean, we can look at the last 10 World Series winners. I mean, you have teams like the Braves and the Nationals in there in 2019. The Cubs won in 2016. The Royals won in 2015. I mean, these aren't big money teams. I think, almost everybody will tell you that the World Series is somewhat of a crapshoot. I mean, I do agree that big money buys competitiveness. You don't get to the World Series or you don't get to the playoffs without spending a little bit of money, or at least being very, good at drafting, like the Baltimore's. But that doesn't even, guarantee you any success. As we've seen, they've lost more games in the playoffs than the Blue Jays have in the last 10 years. But I don't I don't want to necessarily insult anybody here or any Blue Jays fan listening that feels like that this is a bad for the Blue Jays. I feel like sometimes that Blue Jays fans, we have this PTSD from 2006 or something, when the Ricciardi era gave us all a collective inferiority complex. We have literally the richest owner of any baseball team in the major leagues. We could be the Yankees or the Dodgers, and we should be happy as Blue Jays fans that money can buy you success like that. And we should be celebrating it and pushing our team to be a Dodgers. Give Vladdy the money. Go after Juan Soto. Do what you can to be a Yankees or Dodgers and be the Blue Jays in the World Series in the next 5 years. So that's what I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with Dusty with the Yankees and the Dodgers with their huge payroll being in the World Series. I mean, I think it is good for baseball because you have the two MVP caliber players in Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. That's who people want to see. They want to see those matchups. Now with Soto playing the way he's playing, and there is if you say that money is going to buy playoff series, if money's going to buy a World Series, then yeah, Rogers has the money to do that. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if they can, maybe they're going to watch this series and say, yep, clearly we need to increase our payroll even more. Now we have to pay these guys, and that's what will give us to the World Series. The thing is, does Rogers really want that, or do they want us to be like the Leafs, where fans are still going to go to the games? They can spend the money if they want to, but they don't. They're not going to win the World Series, yet people are still going to go to the games. So I do think it's good for baseball. I do think it's going to be a fun series to watch. I think it's going to be the home runs. The payrolls, I guess, are pretty similar. I mean, with the Yankees, a bit more, with their payroll being a bit more than the Dodgers. But they also have the three players that I think are going to put them over the top. So I think it's going to be a fun series to watch.
It could be a really good series. I think that's what really people want is see some really good competitive baseball. Of course, they want to see the top dogs go at it, and they're there. But if it's 4-0 in the series or something like that, then it wouldn't be so hot. So let's hope that the games are tight and some of those. So a couple of those last Yankee Indians games were, or I should say Guardians now. But yeah, let's hope it's good. Let's hope it's some real big tight games.
Well, we don't hear it as much in baseball. I feel like we hear it in other sports where like the league is like rooting for certain matchups. I feel like that's not really so much of a baseball thing. And I don't know if that's because, yeah, like you always hear it in like, hockey. You always hear it in hockey because, we all know Bettman's always like trying to get his, two best horses in the final. And I think in the NBA, you get a little bit of that too. But I feel like in baseball, it's kind of like, whoever gets there is there. And even, you have some of these, smaller teams you touched on, Craig, but they also are, a lot, some of these smaller teams have a lot of history, right? So I don't think that baseball has the national appeal that it used to. If I have to say myself, I much prefer a Dodgers Yankees series over a Subway series. And I imagine most of like the US probably would prefer it too. Like it, I think a Subway series would be cool if you lived in New York, right? That'd be cool, right? But and I just think you get like East Coast, West Coast, you get like Ohtani, Judge, Yankees, Dodgers, like you get this kind of just like it's like these guys. I think these guys are just gonna sit back and just like it's just gonna be like they're just gonna slug, right? Like I think that's probably what's gonna happen, and hopefully we'll all be the beneficiaries of that.
I think a Subway series would have been cool just because like how often are you ever gonna see that? Like maybe the Cubs and the White Sox or like Toronto, Montreal when they were playing. I mean, it's rare that you're gonna see that. So I think it would have been kind of cool, but I think Major League Baseball wants the Dodgers and the Yankees.
This is absolutely an MLB's, front office wet dream of a series. I mean, the two biggest sort of markets, West Coast, East Coast, Dodgers, like I said, yeah, I mean, like this is absolutely what they would have, like, if they had to, if they were pulling the strings like a puppeteer, this is what they would force. Now, I don't think that there's anything nefarious going on. I think both teams absolutely earned their way into this series, and I don't know. I think that is it good for baseball is kind of a weird question for me to answer or for me to think about. Like, is this series going to bring more new fans to baseball? Because I think that's when you say good for baseball, what do you mean? Does it get the whole country excited? Probably not. Like Craig, you mentioned that meme. I saw that meme. I think Al reposted it into our chat with the rest of the country, like just hoping that hoping that both teams lose, basically. But that's, to me, that's kind of like that would be the same if it was Atlanta and the Detroit. It's like, who cares other than Atlanta and Detroit? Other than New York and LA, arguably, there's not a lot of teams out there that have like reach beyond their local towns or cities.
So yeah, like when you say, yeah. So when we say like, is it good for baseball? That could be taken a number of different ways. Is it good for MLB? That's one way. Is it good for baseball being growing across the country or the world? Is it good for the fans, as just fans or viewers? So we can answer that. The way I was answering that question is it good, like sort of from a fan perspective as a viewer? That's kind of how I was looking at it. And yes, it's going to be good for Major League Baseball for sure. Like it's a dream matchup for the two powerhouses, East Coast, West Coast. I get it, but I was just answering it more as a fan. Like, these are two teams I really want to see there. No, I'm kind of tired of them a little bit too much, and I think.
So Craig, let me like what two teams ideally would you want to see there? Like, let's just put like it. What would make you tune in to the World Series if you had to pick two teams, not including the Jays?
Well, it could be literally almost any other team than look the Yankees. The Yankees. Look,
Krager wants to root for the
no,
underdog.
the Yankees are the evil empire to me.
Yeah, I don't want them to win. I'm rooting for the Dodgers, absolutely.
I agree. Like I'm not a Yankees fan, and the Dodgers are kind of an annoying team because of just LA and Hollywood and
and they buy all the players off of
and that's what it is. Like they bought the players, but I think what people like, even if you're not a baseball fan, you probably know about Shohei Ohtani.
Yes,
so people are going to tune in just because of that.
But that's
you probably have heard about. But that's who might tune in to watch those games. That's why, like for baseball, I think that's what people want to see. They want to see Aaron Judge versus Shohei Ohtani. I mean, imagine if Shohei was pitching and it was like Judge versus, or like Ohtani
that's a
versus
shame that
Judge,
we won't
Ohtani
see
versus Juan Soto, like that. Everybody would tune in just for that, right? So you were not going to get that, but maybe. I think this is going to be good. I think people are going to tune in just because to see those guys against each other. And then now, like Juan Soto, just like he's all hyped up now. So, between seeing those three guys, I mean, somewhat Mookie Betts, but, Freddie Freeman, I mean, people aren't going to really follow that, right? But
Hey, he plays for Canada. No hate of Freddie Freeman here, right?
Oh no, I'm not saying there's a hate. I'm just saying like I don't think people are going to tune in to see Freddie Freeman play, right? They're going to tune in to see
it's the Judge Ohtani show.
They're going to tune in to see Aaron Judge. They're going to tune in to see Soto.
Kreger, do you think that, like, are you feeling like as a Blue Jays fan, is that part of the reason why you don't like this? Because in some ways, before the season, let's take all of the interest and whatever out of it. The player that we were in hot pursuit of, Shohei Ohtani's in the World Series. We just, missed out on him, and the evil empire is in the World Series. Like, is that maybe part of your Blue Jays fan speaking?
Yeah, it's all of that. It's just like you said, if you scripted this, if MLB, like Dustin's right, like if they scripted this is the script, right? Like right from the get-go at the beginning of the season almost, like, and here we are, the two linchpins of the league that, it's like the evil empire East and the evil empire West. And, and I got to sit there and watch Mary Hart and look at Tom Hanks all the time and the celebrities, like it's annoying.
Mary Hart.
Yeah, now there's a name for. I don't know. Are you guys old enough to remember Mary Hart?
Oh no, I know. I remember who she is. I know who it is. John Tesh, right?
She sits
Entertainment Tonight.
I was gonna say John Tesh too.
The greatest entertainment news shows ever. Entertainment Tonight.
I think Kreger has a good point though. Like honestly, one of the things that will annoy me in this series, and it's gonna annoy me like in the first 20 minutes, is which celebrity is wearing an LA Dodgers hat?
And then in New York, it's going to be the New York celebrities. Like it.
No, but I know, but there's a little bit of a difference. Like in LA, and this happened a lot with the LA Kings when Gretzky went there. All of these celebrities just come out of the woodwork, and all of a sudden, it's the hot place to be is the Kings. Yeah, they're not really baseball fans. Like, I mean, Mary Hart's been there for a while, but all these other celebrities are all of a sudden going to turn up. And if you look at the Mets, see, I kind of know, I'm not a Mets fan, but I got a lot more respect for the Mets than the Yankees and the Dodgers. I know they got a big payroll and they spend money too, but their fan base is real good. Like, I've been there.
Do you really respect the Mets, Kreger?
I respect the Mets.
They've been pretty terrible for a really long time.
Well, no, but like at least they got like Jerry Seinfeld and some people that really care about baseball. They're there all the time. Like Bill Maher's another one. But the Hollywood crowd, that's annoying.
Oh, it's going to be mega annoying this series.
Well, that's what's going to sell, right? People are going to tune in. Oh, look what celebrities are there.
No, I know it's good for baseball.
That's going to be part of. That's what I mean. Like, I think this conversation. I think if you're saying is this good for baseball, yes, I think that's the answer. Because you're going to get the celebrities. You're going to get East versus West, L.A. versus New York, celebrities here, celebrities there. So, the two biggest names in baseball.
I wanted to bring it back for a second to the question that Al posed a little bit about as a Blue Jays fan, as a Blue Jays perspective. I mentioned something in my kind of initial kickoff of this subject. As a Blue Jays fan, I think, as a Blue Jays fan, you should be celebrating this because we have a big payroll, a big owner that has deep pockets, and we could be these teams. This could be the Blue Jays. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's... I wanted to know what you guys think about that particular point.
I agree with you. I do think they have the money to do it. The question is, will they do it? Because yes, we all know they can. It's Rogers.
But seeing this, and like maybe they have the biggest ratings that are in the last 10 years. I can guarantee they're going to have big ratings. This is going to be a big show from an MLB perspective. Is that something that could kind of convince like Rogers and say, hey, like we have exclusive rights to like, you know, the television in Canada for this. Like if we could be this.
And it will be Canada. It won't just be a state or a city. It will be a whole country if the Jays make it there. But like I said, will they spend the money? Can they? Yes. Will they? Who knows?
Well, Dustin, there are two bigger cities in North America, and they're in the World Series. Toronto's the third biggest city in North America. There's no reason, absolutely no reason why we can't be.
I think isn't Chicago ahead of us? But
no, I think we passed Chicago a while back, actually.
On whether or not they're going to do it. I mean, do you believe that they were serious about Shohei Ohtani and competitive in that bidding?
I think they were serious. I don't know if Shohei Ohtani was serious with the Jays, but well, and sorry, I should put a little asterisk on that. Like I think he was serious in that the Jays were willing to pay. I
think they were.
I just looking back, I think he was just always going to go to the Dodgers.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the fact that they were willing to fork that money, I feel bode well. I think someone like Juan Soto, who is up this year, I'm not putting my hopes out there necessarily. I'm pretty much, I've set my expectations. We're not going to get Soto. He's friends with Vladdy. If they pay Vladdy and pay Soto in the same year and like, let's do this thing, I mean, that would be exciting. I mean, that's, is it going to happen? Rob, I think, again, this is the PTSD coming in. It's like we're beat down like by the Ricciardi era. I think that's like there's a ghost on people of our age, especially. That's a long dark history in the Blue Jays, is that era where they cried poor and like they didn't have the money and they were trying to be the Moneyball team and all this garbage. And we see what happens when you actually put some money into it. 2015, 2016, then we were there in like these recent times. This is because we've been spending money. There's been some problems, incompetences that we've gone through in great detail on this podcast. But, yeah, I think that they could absolutely do what the Yankees or Dodgers are doing.
The Dodgers are the Tampa Bay Rays with money.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they are. Right? And that's exactly who I want the Jays to be. I want them to use all these, stats and things to their advantage. They don't really seem to understand how to at this point, but like I want them to use that. Like the one team that we actually thought, Kreger, the one team that has been the thorn in the New York Yankees side, and actually this year everyone thought was still going to be probably the favorite for the World Series, the Houston Astros, right? They got beaten by the hot Detroit Tigers, right? And is that the reason why the Yankees are in the World Series? Now there was of course some garbage can beating and things that happened in those years, and I'm sure other things that happened that we don't fully know. But no, I definitely think like I'm hoping, but there's a bit of two minds about this. Like if the Mets made the World Series, right? Part of me thinks that the Shatkins regime will go, see, you just have to get in. You just have to get in, and then or let's say like the Tigers had this like miraculous kind of like kept pushing through or whatever, right? And so I don't know. I think I'm hoping that they take this and say yes. Like, you got to spend the do re mi to bring in the players. Like, if we want to talk about these teams a little bit, I don't know. Like, I'm assuming you guys have been watching the series, and like it seems like kind of a it's basic. The Dodgers just kind of like level everybody. Like, we're just gonna score as many runs as we can, and the Yankees are like, they seem to score, but it's like they seem to have more clutch home runs, guys performing, like big players performing at the right time, and I think this is going to be an interesting kind of clash and battle, and at the end of the day, what is it going to come down to? Probably going to come down to pitching, right? And I don't know. Craig, you play fantasy, so you might be able to weigh in a little more on this, but do you think one of the teams has a pitching advantage in this series?
I think maybe the Dodgers. Their starters haven't been that good, but their bullpen's been excellent. Yankees, I don't know. Their pitching's it's good, but I think the Dodgers might have a little bit better pitching, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure. They're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say. On the pitching side, they're pretty evenly matched, but I think you are right. You kind of make a good point there. I think, especially like I think it was the Royal Series. There's a lot of one-run games that the Yankees were involved with, right? And they were winning by 1 or 2 runs, or even losing by 1 or 2 runs. Fairly close, tight games. And the Dodgers have just been demolishing teams. Now that might just be speaking to the relative difference between the two leagues, and now that they're meeting, maybe there's a little difference. We'll see that. But I think, the Dodgers have the better bullpen maybe, and the Yankees have the better starting pitching. And then I think they're fairly even on the offensive side, with maybe I think the Yankees having a little bit better overall offense. I don't know.
So is this the time now that you're going to ask us for our vote on who's going to take what? Who's going to take it?
Why did you just read my mind, Rob? Let's go into for some. How about we go into some predictions? How are we going to see this shakedown? Who's going to win and how many games?
I'll go. I think it's going to go to I think it's going to go to 7, and I think Yankees are going to win because of their 3 big boppers. I think because of Soto, Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton. I don't think LA has the 3 big guys like they do. So I say, not that I want to, but I say Yankees in 7.
Whew. I didn't, when I filled out my bracket at the start of the playoffs, I didn't really have these 2 teams in the finals, so I don't have like an official one that I made pass to go on, but my gut says the Dodgers are going to win this. I think Al's point about them just seeming to just demolish their competition. I think the Yankees have been squeaking by a little bit on some luck. Yeah, they have Judge and Soto, but I think that there's enough pitching on the Dodgers side to shut them down and keep them in check. And then the Dodgers have, some fairly good offense themselves. So I'm going to say I'll agree with Rob in 7, but I'll go with Dodgers in 7.
Well, it makes me sick to say this, but I think the Yankees are going to win. I don't know. I just think they got too much firepower. Like Rob said, like they got a lot of firepower in the lineup. And I don't know. I think it's their year. It's been a while, and I don't know. My gut tells me they're going to pull it off. So I think 6 games. I think somehow they'll pull it off in 6. Evil Empire.
People like to pick AL teams, right? Oh, the AL, AL East, right? Obviously all these strong teams. And I feel like a lot of NL teams get into the World Series and they just know how to, they know how to play they know how to play the game a little bit. It seems like they don't rely on big swings as much. And so there's a part of me that's like wanting, to pick the NL team. And the other thing is that Freddie Freeman sat out the deciding game against the Mets. It's probably not a good sign. Now, saying that was like a little cheeky play to say, hey, we think we're going to win this series, so we'll maybe give him another night to rest, because then he gets almost a week to rest up for the World Series. I am going to go with the Yankees, and I'm going to say Giancarlo Stanton is the reason I'm going to go with that, because he seemed like a little bit of a spent force, but these playoffs, man, he's just like destroying balls, right? Again, right? And I think we were quite used to this when he was on Miami, and he was, absolutely hitting moonshots, these like setting exit velocity almost records kind of thing. Like he was just absolutely destroying balls, and he seems like he's back in that he's back in that swinging well, seeing the ball. He must be seeing the ball well. And I'm gonna go Yankees in 7 games. I like it. I like it a lot.
Plus, MLB is going to rig it like that because they're going to make more money the more games they play.
Maximum. Yeah, sure.
They're going to be like, all right, you guys just take it to 7 and just play one game. That's going to be the official game, Game 7.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me, and maybe we'll reconvene post World Series to see how our predictions pan out. Thanks, everyone.